Sarber's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Casimir finds Bissard.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Tie-Dye podcast. I'm James Mappin. This is the debate show where we give you the chance to come up and talk about Sheffield Wednesday. Things seem to have quietened down a little bit, but there's still so much that we can talk about. I'll get onto that in a second. As always, as we are every single week, going to be live for around about an hour and a half. So do make sure you can join us for the full show. If you can't or want to listen back to it, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/WTID pod. If you're watching over on YouTube or on X, then please do get in the comments. I'll do my best to read out as many as I possibly can. If you're on Twitter Spaces, then press that request to talk button on the bottom left and I'll bring you up and we'll see if we can get through as many people as we possibly can. It's always nice to have the regulars on, but also like to speak to some new voices as well. So do please come up and have your say, whatever it is that you want to talk about. The floor is yours. We'll, by all means talk about anything that you want. Obviously, there's a couple of things that I'm going to mention, but like I said, the floor is yours. If you are watching on YouTube, do press that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything at all, and it means that you won't miss another one of our live shows, one of the two that we do a week, an extra one if you're a patron member as well, I may add. I do just want to give a shout out to some of the new members that we've had in the past week. Rob Bell, Josh Godley, Samantha Watkins, Austin Parkin, Joseph Boyd, Des Cook, Kyle G. Pemberton, Philip Collinson, Matt Shaw, Michael Shaw, Rob Grattan, Andrew Davenport, Joe, Ben Taylor, Rob Coley-Shaw and David Ball. 16 new members in a week, which is absolutely incredible. So, thanks everyone that's done all of that. Anyway, enough about that. Actually, I can see some people already that's here. Adam says Danny isn't going anywhere. We've got Daz in here. We've got Yorkshire, military, maybe. I remember it's cut a bit off there. We've got Daniel, we've got Daz, we've got Barry, we've got Tony, Andy, Gary. We've got loads of people in here. Nice to see everyone in here as always on a Wednesday evening and not watching. Maybe you're doing both. Maybe you are watching the Tottenham Man United game. I've got it on. I'm not watching it. I'm obviously talking to you guys as well. What we're going to be talking about this evening. Just by the way, get over on X Spaces, press request to talk. There's nobody up to talk at the moment, so you can get straight up and we can have a chat. Where does Danny go? That's kind of what this was titled when I did this a couple of days ago when I scheduled it all. He's been linked with numerous clubs. Southampton look like they're going for former Lawns manager Will Still. They're in advanced talks with him. Southampton did look like a dead cert, and they're probably the only club that we know has had interest in Danny Röhl. Rangers was also a club that was apparently rumoured as being interested. Sources have said that the compensation may be a stumbling block for that move. That did kind of leave just RB Leipzig. Also rumours of Leicester as well. Not sure how strong they are, but RB Leipzig without a manager since December. Apparently, Danny was on the shortlist. He's been there before, back in 2018, before he left to join Hasenhüttl at Southampton. However, it reports today that Röhl isn't on the shortlist for that managerial job there either. German journalist Philipp Heinz said there's been no recent talks between Leipzig and Danny Röhl, as I reported in early May. A move within England is currently more attractive than a transfer to the Bundesliga. Röhl remains a Red Bull alternative, but there's been no recent progress or new developments. Leipzig initially fully committed to Glasner or Fabregas should both ultimately decline or fall apart. They will look for alternatives. So they've kind of also looks like they've ruled themselves out as well. So it's not looking great, is it, for Danny? And I don't really know where it leaves us either. We've got a manager that clearly doesn't want to be here, and he might be stood in the dugout for the first game in August. Do let us know what you think about all of that. Get on... Get in the comments on YouTube. Come up and speak. I see Stevie wants to speak, so I'll bring him up in a second. Also, as well, you might have seen it yesterday. Josh Windass was on a podcast, Open Goal podcast, with Scottish midfielder Simon Ferret, amongst others. He's been on that podcast before. The big talking point is when he referred to one of the youngsters, Joey Pooty, one of the youngsters that's been released in this summer, referred to him as being pish, quote unquote. Pooty has since responded to that, saying on his Twitter account, and I quote, "It's disappointing to be called out by Josh Windass during what's already been a really tough period for me. Not being offered a new contract at Sheffield Wednesday has been difficult to process, and the last thing I expected was to be dragged into something like this." He then goes on to explain kind of what happened with Messi and saying that he runs only 9 kilometres. But then he also goes on to say that it's frustrating to see things taken out of proportion when emotions are already high. I've always tried to conduct myself with honesty and respect both on and off the pitch. So what do you kind of make to what's been said? Should a senior player in Josh Windass, a player who, let's not forget, has captained Sheffield Wednesday as well, be making such comments like that to on various podcasts? What message does that send out to the other youngsters at the club? Or does the whole thing just not need talking about and just kind of move on? Something that may just happen all the time at the club. I don't know. I mean, let's not forget as well, as it stands, Josh does have another year at Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, we exercised that extension on his contract, much to his annoyance, let's say. Obviously didn't quite like that. Maybe perhaps should have read the contract a little bit more closely. But yeah, we can also, another talking point as well, another kind of hypothetical one, because I don't think it's really going to happen. But something that everyone seemed to have an opinion on yesterday is Carlos Carvalhal. Like I said, not a serious talking point, but something that just floated. He has left Braga, or will be very shortly. But what would you have him back at Sheffield Wednesday 8 years after he left back in 2017? Would you have the 59-year-old Portuguese manager back? Since then he's been to Swansea, Braga, Al Wada, Celta Vigo, Olympiacos, back to Braga for a third time, may I add. Obviously led us to the playoffs twice in consecutive years. I did run a poll. I will share that with you a little bit later on. Quite surprising. Given all the comments, the poll says something totally different. So I don't know whether people had hijacked it or not and said yes. But yeah, we can talk about all of that and anything else that you want to talk about, of course. Obviously, Stevie's just waiting. Steve, I'll come to you in a second. Matt says, "How do? Hope you're well." The Wednesday version of James Richardson. Are you mocking my my look? The no hair and the beard, maybe. Daz said, "I can't see him going to Leicester. It looks like they're about to be in a whole heap of trouble." Well, maybe he's used to all of that, used to being at clubs in a bit of trouble. Daniel says, "I've got a feeling he's going to be here for at least the start of the season." Matt says, "Surely he's off to Swansea, the club he always supported as a child." George says, "Love it. Let everyone know you can't play for Wednesday unless you're willing to run. If you don't run, you're getting called out on a podcast." Big club mentality. Right, let's come to Stevie then, that's been waiting to talk. Stevie, how's things? You all good?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Are you?
Yes, fine, thank you very much. Sun is shining, at least for a couple more hours. Been to take my lad to football, which... he's only 4 years old, but getting stuck in with some big tackles. I think he's going to be a Roy Keane when he gets a little bit older. But anyway, what do you want to talk about, Steve?
Oh well, I thought I'd give my opinion on the Carlos question.
Go on then.
I am not Carlos's biggest fan, because I feel that he wasted the strongest squad that we've had in many a year.
He wasted the little money that Chansiri had, let's say.
Yeah, and he bought it tactically, and during the game as a coach, he completely bottled that game at Wembley. All the sort of tactical tweaks that he made in previous games throughout the season to win games, he didn't do any of them. Sort of after an hour, the game was crying out for a change and didn't make one. And I just think I don't know whether it was the gravity of the situation or whatever, but he froze and he just did nothing. And I just can't forgive it at all.
Did you see the comments that Curtis Davis made on another podcast as well? I think that was today or yesterday, saying how we all turned up, but we as in Sheffield Wednesday turned up wearing the suits and taking the photos in the ground and stuff, and at that point they're like, yeah, we're going to beat these. They're here for the day out. We're here to win, kind of thing. And I suppose really, when you're looking back on and reflecting on it, we did perhaps freeze a little bit, didn't we, in that game, and didn't kind of play how we had been playing to get us to where we were, I guess.
Yeah, because I thought we did exceptionally well to get past Brighton, because they were, I think, by some considerable margin, the strongest team in the playoff picture, and we did magnificently well to get past them. And then I think Curtis's assessment is correct. We just didn't turn up, did we? We were just rubbish, absolutely rubbish.
Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it. To be fair, just a bit real anticlimax, weren't it, for the season? But
yeah, I just think that in situations like that, you have got to look at the sort of the leadership of the team, and I don't think Carlos and his coaches had didn't appear to have any kind of tactical plan to counteract Hull or look at how Hull were going to play and give them problems. I mean, just looking back at the game, you got the old Tottenham centre half. I'm trying to think of his name. He's on Sky Sports covering games now.
Dawson, is it? Was it Dawson?
Yeah. Yeah, you got Michael Dawson in the twilight of his career with a turning circle of the Queen Mary. Forestieri could have had him on toast all day, every day of the week, twice on Sundays, kind of thing. And very early in the game, Forestieri went past him, he fouled him, and he was on a yellow. And I'm sat there thinking, yes, right, all we need to do is get the ball to Forestieri, get him isolated on Dawson, and we've got it made here.
Yeah, that was the only yellow card in the game, weren't it? 10 minutes in, that was, yeah.
That's why what's going on? It was the dream scenario. We just, so...
Go on then, though. Would you have Carlos back? I mean, like I said, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but if hypothetically, if it was on the table, would you have him back or not?
Well, can I have splinters in my backside? I think there are far worse managers, but I think there are better managers. But actually, no, I wouldn't. Well,
do you know what? All the comments when I floated it yesterday, all the comments. I mean, don't be silly. Should never go back. As much as I love Carlos and the dream, ship set sail and sunk. No, it's an irrelevant question. Not a chance. Basically, all the comments are no. Why are we so obsessed with old managers? All these sorts of stuff. The votes, there was 1,900 people that voted on the poll. 55% have said yes, that they would have Carlos back. So, do you know what? I'd kind of, because everyone was saying no, I thought, let's see if he's actually a no or not. But there we go. I mean, just for the record, I don't think he's going to work really well with a shoestring budget. So we haven't got any money, have we? So maybe there's other managers that we perhaps might look to go. But you never know. Stranger things have happened, of course.
Has he got a Denver Broncos t-shirt hidden somewhere though?
He might have. He certainly might. Do you know what? He might have got one. He might have even managed them at some point, because his list of teams that he's managed is getting longer by the second. I mean, I couldn't believe how many clubs he's been at since leaving us, to be fair, which is mental. Steve, what do you make to all the comments that Windass is making? I feel like, once again, he's not really helping himself when it comes to his image, persona, and things like that.
Well, yes, but actually, was it the worst thing in the world to point out to Joey Footy that maybe one of the reasons that he got released was because he didn't work hard enough and he didn't run hard enough?
I don't think it was that. I think it's more the comment that he was well, in his words, pish, meaning, he got released and he's pish. But
yeah, that was ill-advised, wasn't it? That wasn't nice, and I suppose he should never have got himself in that situation. But it'd be nice to see Joey Footy turn around and say, well, actually, I have to take his point, and maybe I have to, look at myself and be a better player going forward, and that might have made a few suitors sit up and take notice rather than him moaning about it and being a typical footballer in his attitude, I suppose.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. I think for me personally, again, he just doesn't help himself. Like, I mean, I know he's come out and said that he doesn't really care what the fans think. He's more bothered about what the manager thinks and stuff like that, which I kind of get that. You know, we don't pick him week in, week out. We can think a player is absolutely garbage, but if the gaffer likes him and the gaffer's still going to keep playing him, then who are we to kind of say various things? Didn't get George Byers anywhere, did it? We absolutely loved him. Quite a lot of people love Paul Valentin as well, but neither of them are at Sheffield Wednesday anymore, and things like that. So I guess he's partly right, but as a fan, it just doesn't sit for me personally. It just doesn't sit right. Like, he didn't have to say it, did he? Like, he was on a podcast talking about various things, talking about when a United fan shit on the centre circle and things like that at Hillsborough. I don't know how he got into that situation where he needed to call out a player. I mean, he fell short of calling it out his second name, but I mean, it doesn't take a detective to work out who we're actually talking about, really. I just feel like it's just not needed. Like, well, he's supposed to be a role model to, well, the youngsters that are coming through. They look up to Josh Windass. I'd like to think they would. 13 goals this season. They'll be thinking, yeah, I want to do the same, in the blue and white at Sheffield Wednesday. But, I don't know. He's just not really helping himself, as I said.
No, I think what he maybe could have done is said, we had a young player in one of the age groups who wouldn't, and then done it that way. But to say Joey, like,
yeah, because nobody's going to know, are they? Like, if he does that, other than him, if he listened, he'd probably think, oh yeah, that was me. But quite a lot of people do that. They'll tell a story, but not actually disclose any of the individuals involved. But yeah, I just don't think it's great. Let us know in the comments, everyone, what you thought to what Windass has said on that podcast. He also said, Stevie, about his contract that he's got. He said he got asked about, have you got another year or another contract? He said, yeah. What was his words? Yeah, I've got another year. I can't remember what he actually said. To be fair, it wasn't great anyway. Or we'll see, I think, is what he ended up by saying. Which, yeah, I mean, he has got another year because he can't not accept it. It is baked in. He is a Sheffield Wednesday player for the next season, but we'll, as he says, we'll see on that one. We'll see what materialises. Do you think we should, if an offer comes in for him, do you think we need to move him on, or do you think we need to keep someone like Windass? Because I can't see us. It's a tricky one because I can't see us replacing him with anyone.
Well, how much would it cost to get a player who's like the fifth highest scorer in the division? We haven't got that kind of money. But on the other hand, what's his attitude going to be like? Is he really going to be bought into it? I don't know. It's a difficult one. If we got a 7-figure offer, I would take it and move on. But let's see.
It's a tricky one because if someone was to say, because we've just signed him on a year deal because he's still ours, we've just renewed his contract. If we were linked with, I can bring up the goal scorers for this season just gone. Let me just bring them up. But, if we were linked to one of these players and someone said, oh, you can have him, he's coming on a free, would you have him or not? For example, Conway, Middlesbrough. He scored 13 goals, exactly the same as us. If we're linked with Tom Conway next, in the summer, and he's coming on a free, you're not gonna turn it down, are you? You're not gonna not get excited by something like that. But yet, when it's our player, we're like, yeah, get him off, send him off. We don't need him. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Well, I think it's familiarity breeds contempt, isn't it? It's one of them. I mean, and Tommy Conway cost $5.5 million, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit different. He's 22, Windass is 30, so I do get, people might be saying, oh yeah, of course we'd have him. He's got a better sell-on value, but you know the point that I'm trying to make. Like a 13 goal a season striker that you can just sign on another year deal. I mean, I was talking to my dad yesterday about this actually, and I feel like why do we have to wait until the end of the season to exercise these deals? Surely at the point of, he scored all his goals pretty much up until Christmas, January time. After New Year, he scored twice? So he scored 11 by that point. why are we waiting until the summer to then extend his deal? Why can't we just trigger it in the January? We've kind of would have, maybe his downturn in form wouldn't have happened. Maybe, he knows he's here for another season. If he wants a move away, he's going to, perhaps try a little bit harder. Do you know what I mean? Why do we always have to leave it to the 11th hour all of the time when it comes to new contracts? Why did Barry Bannon have to wait until the summer to be given a new deal? Does you see where I'm coming from?
Absolutely. Well, it's just part of the fun of being run by a lunatic, isn't it? I suppose, at the end of the day. On Josh's drop in form, I know he said he's not. I think he's hinted that he's not that close to his dad, hasn't he? I've not heard it with my own ears, but I'm sure I read it somewhere that he said he's not that close to his dad. I wondered if his dad's diagnosis of Alzheimer's did coincide with his drop in form.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if that might have affected him, sort of January, February time.
Potentially, obviously that's one thing as fans that we forget, that all these players are human beings at the end of the day. Marvin Johnson, that's come out in the public knowledge, the difficulties that he had and stuff. Patterson talked about kind of, his mental health after the QPR game and how him not playing was causing him to struggle. And I think we do forget, and we just see the pound notes and say, yeah, they're getting paid a lot of money. They need to just go out and play football, but sometimes it's not as easy as that sometimes. So yeah, that could have been a contributing factor as to why he's didn't score as many goals as he perhaps could have after January. Steve, is there anything else you want to talk about at all? Danny Röhl, anything like that?
I just don't know what to make of this Danny Röhl situation at all. It's getting very difficult to read, but I think there's another job going in Germany now, isn't there, at Wolfsburg? Because Hassan Hüttel's apparently gone from Wolfsburg. So there's a possible opening there for Danny.
Yeah, obviously, if you read the report of that I read out earlier, or the comments, sounds like he's looking to stay in England, and another job in England, doesn't want to move, which is kind of slightly contradictory of what we heard about, him missing his family and stuff like that, and people putting two and two together and thinking he's going to go back to Germany and stay with them, be closer to them and stuff. But yeah, who knows? It seems, for me personally, I just feel like I know the Premier League's not finished yet. That finishes this weekend, so maybe we might start to see a few movements there. But we're getting kind of, as every week passes by, I hope that things are happening behind the scenes. Obviously, I'm sure they're all on holiday at the moment. They're not. I don't know what date it is that they're supposed to be returning back for pre-season, but the logical one would be that Pedersen would just take charge. But he's, at the moment, Danny Röhl, as far as we're concerned, is still the manager. How's that going to? We're talking about it all. What are the players going to feel like? What are the players going to feel like when they turn back into training? Are they going to be fully behind what Danny Röhl's telling them to do? Is Danny Röhl going to be fully behind what he's telling the players to do as well? So it is all up in the air. And for me personally, I just want the situation sorted as quickly as possible. I know that's not always possible, but you just want to know what's happening, don't we, really?
Yeah, it's like suspended animation. It makes you worried about what's happening on recruitment. As the pre-season programme actually being booked, and is it in place? Or are we going to end up training in an obscure place in Spain where the temperature's over 100 degrees and you can't train properly?
We might just be going to Scarborough or Scotland, maybe. We might be up to Scotland again, like we did with Darren Moore. It took us up to Scotland, was it? I can't remember now. Yeah, who knows where we're gonna tip up? I mean, if you was a betting man, Stevie, and do you think it's going to be Danny Röhl in the dugout in August, or do you think it's going to be someone else?
Well, no, I don't think it is going to be Danny. I think something will happen, and I think Henrik Pedersen will be manager. I think it's all sort of lined up and predetermined. I'm just wondering whether the chairman is just waiting for some kind of offer to come through to either come near to or meet Danny's buyout, and then that'll be sorted. I just don't see it. It seems to me that his relationship with the chairman's beyond repair, unless there's a change in the people running the club. I just can't see him coming back at all.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Steve, massive thanks for coming on, pal. Do really appreciate it, as always. I've got Paul and Gavin. Paul, I'll come to you in a second, mate. I'm just going to read a few more comments out if I can. Matt said it wouldn't be as bad if he was talking about a player who left 3 years ago, obviously meaning Josh Windass, not one that's just released, looking for a new club. Jason adds, Josh don't want to be here, so if an offer came in, I would take it. Daniel, poor words from Windass, to be honest, especially being captain a few times last season. Bannon would never slag off players in media or interviews. Bannon just does it on the pitch, doesn't he? The Wildsmith one at QPR, that one springs to mind. That was a quite hilarious one, that one. Gary said, James, i.e. Windass, he's no world beater and get rid. He's going to have the wrong attitude because he's still here. Got one here, says, no point keeping someone who clearly wants out. Good move by the club, to be fair. Not sure which one who you're referring to there, because if it's Windass, we have kept him. But yeah, let us know who you're on about there. Matt said, if an offer came in for Windass, it would be crazy not to accept. Highly unlikely to sign a new contract next year. And then it's just another player who walks for free out of the S6 door. Sell and reinvest. James says, hope he goes to Germany. It would be like seeing your ex with a new bloke if he went to the Championship. Yep, I do agree. And Matt makes a great point. Transfer registration window opens on the 1st of June. The first friendly is 11th of June at Frickley, so it's getting close now. Yes, obviously 21st of May as we sit down here, so only a couple of weeks away until the transfer window does open. Let's come to Paul then. Paul's been waiting patiently. Paul, how's it going, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, pal. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. It's just a whirlwind of things happening at Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. But at least we're getting some new pictures, mate. You know, it's not all bad.
Yeah, I mean, and also, you know, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I think a lot of the EFL clubs are getting some sort of grant, aren't they? So I'm not going to laden DC with loads of praise because I don't think he's due any, personally.
Yeah.
I think the whole situation, I get people's anger, but, you know, in an industry like, I'm in an industry where agents actually say a lot of things and they do a lot of things and the client stays quiet. We've not actually had any, with Danny Röhl, he's not actually come out and said, he sort of said, I don't want to be here. But what I'm trying to say is I think we're reading so much into so little because there's nothing coming from above. And, you know, the chairman can come out and he can put him on gardening leave or he can say, listen, we're just clearing a few. It can come out. He just doesn't want to because he's not bothered. And I feel that the only way out now is for him to sell the club because it's going to get toxic and it's going to get nasty. That's the way I can see it.
Yeah, Paul, I did, just before you carry on, I did float this earlier on Discord, and I was kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit, and I was kind of asking the question, what has Danny actually done wrong? Because I do feel like he's done these two interviews, and yes, he does actually praise Sheffield Wednesday, and he does praise the chairman, I think, for giving him the opportunity. And then I think everyone's getting caught up on the fact that he signed this 3-year contract. And I think everyone's also getting really caught up on the fact that we haven't got a pot to piss in, and we're kind of relying on this without knowing too much behind the scenes. As fans, we're relying too much on this money that he's trying to get for Danny Röhl. And then, you know, because he doesn't actually say that he wants to leave. I think we are. I mean, I think we'd be right to kind of assume that, but the other thing is, well, I think a lot of words get put in his mouth with some of the questions.
If you were a young manager that has just been given a 3-year deal by the chairman and maybe promised a shitload of things that he's not delivered, and you look at the squad and you've worked your absolute bollocks off trying to get the best out of them and squeeze them, which I think he has, and he looks knackered and he's looked absolutely tired continuously towards the end, and he can't get anything else out, and then he's told what's going to happen next year and what he's going to get, and then he looks at his career and thinks, I'm 36-year-old, and next year I'm going to be in a relegation fight that I think we're going to lose, so we're going to go down. Does he want that on his CV? Nobody knows what DC said, but I'll tell you what, out of the two of them, I know who I'd listen to most.
Yeah. What do you say to the people that says he signed the contract, though, and he kind of knew what it was like before he signed it?
Yeah, that's great. I understand that. I'm a Wednesday fan like everybody else. He has signed a contract, but what's the chairman said he's going to give him? What he's not giving him. And yeah, I get that. Yeah, but he signed a contract. Yeah, but he's also got his career to think about. We don't know what he's been promised. A lot of people are saying as well, oh, he's had all these signings. Has he? Has he signed him? I'd like to know what PXO does at the club, to be honest.
Yeah, my take on it all, when people say about the signing the contract and stuff, it's like, as you said, what is he being promised and what's not being delivered on. I don't think we're ever going to find that out, really. Well, you never know. He might talk to some German media outlet when he's not here, so we'll kind of look out for that one. And I'm sure Chancery will react to it because he's never not done that before, has he? But for me, with the whole situation is, you can't keep you can't keep someone under duress. I mean, if he doesn't want to be here, what benefit is it to Sheffield Wednesday by keeping someone that's not trying, just doesn't want to be here, making it toxic? What's the play? What's it going to do to the players? The people that lose out are the club and the fans, because the club, the team's just going to be languishing down at the bottom of the championship somewhere, more than likely. And it's not really going to. Nobody wins at all, does it really? So it kind of goes back to my comment that I said 2, 3, 4 weeks ago now, where you just need to. You get compensation for someone when they're doing well, and someone else wants to take them off your hands. When things are starting to go bad or perceived to be going bad, they didn't have a great 2025. Let's be honest. The form after New Year was pretty poor. Who's really going to come in and say, yes, I'm going to take this manager off your hands and give you 3, 4, 5 million pounds? I just don't think anyone is. So it doesn't really work like that. You just got to go, well, that didn't work. The relationship broke down, and you just have to move on. And just put it down as a bad,
I really do think it's all to do with the structure as well at the club and things. We haven't got a CEO, we haven't got a director of football, we haven't got people that he can liaise with that's probably can see a little bit more sense or can filter down from the chairman. It's the chairman, and as we all know, how many managers hasn't the chairman annoyed? I mean, maybe you look at Carvajal, but look at the players that he was given, because he put all. It seemingly looks like he put all his chips on black and red came in. But what I'm trying to say is, Tony Pulis, Steve Bruce, it goes on and on and on. And the thing is, because the fans can't get to the chairman, I just want to briefly touch on the Windass thing. There's been a little bit of a witch on for Windass for a few months before what he's done today. And I understand what he's done today is not good. But I also understand that I don't quite understand why we're so it's like we're trying to drive him out of the club. Do we actually know what we're going to get if Windass goes? Because I'll tell you something, I don't think we're going to get the quality.
Well, that's the problem. I think it all stemmed from the "I'm not celebrating in League One" kind of thing that came from it. It came from his dad, didn't it? His dad said it, and then he kind of followed through with it. He scored that goal against MK Dons. I remember it when the one where he kind of miss-hit it and it flicked up and he volleyed it in front of the cop. That during COVID time, I think that was. It didn't celebrate after that one. He just stood there. There's been a few others that he's kind of just turned around and stuff, which I think really, really grated on quite a lot of the fans. And it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because then he pops up and scores, the goal against Barnsley in the playoff final. He scores that worldie earlier on this season. He scored another worldie against Blackburn last season. He scored some fantastic goals and 13 goals this season as well. But as I keep referring to, fans just like players that kiss the badge, run the blood to water.
And he said that, didn't he? He actually said that. Maybe I should edit about a bit more and do a few more slide tackles.
On the podcast, you mean on the podcast he did yesterday, he said that?
Oh, no, he said it in an interview before, something like maybe the fans would love me a bit more if I won a few more headers and slided in. At the end of the day, you've got to be confident to be what he is. Hey, listen, I'd rather have him than Jay Boothroyd. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think what it is as well as English people, or we find it very difficult to manage someone that's got an ego. They come across as arrogant. Danny Röhl's going through exactly the same thing. He's believing his own hype. I keep seeing that quote being thrown around quite a lot. And it's just someone that's got ambition and wants to go further. All right, maybe he's gone around it. Probably it could have been a little bit better in doing so. But also, you've got to take into consideration he is working for one of, if not the worst chairman in football, certainly in the English Football League. Dai Yong's gone now, so maybe Chancery takes over that mantle. Where he's constantly being spoken about and laughed at for various things that he's done. You don't hear that about any other chairman, the Charlton chairman or I don't know.
No, I mean this is the madness that's got to stop at some point. We've got to get a new owner at some point. We've got to do something as a fan base because we what we're going to be watching next season for extortionate prices. We're going to be watching football for Premier League prices without probably Josh Windass because he's probably just going to say, yeah, I want a transfer request because whatever's coming on against me. Without the managers because nobody's going to want to work for Chancery. How many players are we going to get, by the way? Because nobody gets paid. So,
well, you only have to ask for 5, Paul, and you'll get 10. So, it's not too bad.
It's like going for some Lurpak and having 5 different.
Sounds like you've just jumped in. Are you still there, Paul? Sounds like you've just jumped in the car and your car's just connected to your Bluetooth.
I might be losing you, mate. Sorry.
Nah, it's all good. Paul, you've been great coming. It's been great speaking to you as always. If you want to do the same as Paul, just press that request to talk button over on Twitter Spaces, and I will bring you up. I can see Gavin wants to speak. I see G wants to speak as well. I'll come to you in a second. I just want to read a few more of these comments out. Games and vlogs with Jamie says, I think keeping Danny Röhl at Hillsborough could be more damaging for Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, that is the problem, isn't it? Like, we don't know how is he gonna react? How is he gonna apply himself? That's one thing that he kind of prided himself on. But certainly since the Southampton rumours didn't really go too well. Heads been turned. I see quite a lot of people saying. George has said, don't wish it on him, but could see him getting a step up to a club with higher expectations than falling just short and getting sacked. Yeah, I mean, the thing is now, like, he was obviously loved at Sheffield Wednesday. If he was in the dugout come August, come the first game of the season, is he still going to be as loved? Are we still going to be chanting his name? Who knows? Certainly, judging by what's been said on social media, I don't really think that's going to happen. But, we're a fickle bunch, 2 wins, and we'll soon be singing his name again, I'm sure. Gary said, do you think Windass is not giving 2 fucks to orchestrate a move away? Possibly. I don't think that's I don't think that was his motive for calling out Joey Pooty, though. But, yeah, potentially, we might see that moving forward. Certainly not happy the fact that he's staying, and I'm sure he had his sights set on somewhere else. Not that Danny's been a good manager. He's been fantastic. Yeah, I agree with that one. Liam said Windass needs to go if he doesn't want to be here. Get money for him, but knowing this club will let him walk out for nothing. Yeah, we always do that. It's nothing new, Liam, at all. Wigan Owls said, I've just been down to the ground. The new groundsman is measuring up for the hyphen in Walmart for the pitch side logo. Wigan Owl, I hope you're right. I hope you're right with that one, and I hope a takeover is imminent, but I don't think it is. I think that is going to be rumbling on and on and on, or maybe not. Maybe we haven't got anything to rumble. There was a rumour on Owls Talk, last week? I've heard nothing since. Has the bid gone in? Are they talking? Who knows? Was it even a bid in the first place? But we don't even know that either. Loads more comments as well, which I'll come on to in a bit. So do keep them coming in. But let's come to Gavin next, if I can. Gavin, how's things? All good, mate?
How do you do?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. What do you want to talk about? Got loads to talk about, of course, as always.
Where do we start?
It's up to you, mate. We can talk about Danny Röhl. We can talk about Josh Windass. We can talk about
Danny Röhl to start with.
What's your take on it all?
I don't know, to be honest, because Danny, to be fair to us, has been a stalwart to us. It's like he's been a saviour to us, and there's been all this speculation about all these clubs wanting him, this, that, and other. It's like, but to me, it's like, if all these clubs wanted him properly, he'd have done a proper job since January, to be fair.
Yeah. Do you think he was trying to, I've seen a few people say that he was trying to get himself sacked. I can certainly see why people would think that, certainly with his comments that he was coming out with, in the post-match press conferences more often than not, certainly to Radio Sheffield. when he was asking, well, you need to ask the chairman that. Obviously, there's a big fallout in January, which we now know was to do with him being linked with Southampton. But yeah, like I said, I can see why people would have thought that. But he's still got another 2 years on his contract. Chansiri slapped a compensation clause in there, which is fairly hefty. That's not what, £3 to £5 million. It's not a small amount. But like you said, clubs have got to be willing to pay that to take him off his hands. And he's still a young manager, and it's going to be a risk, isn't it, for a team or a club to pay that sort of money for a new manager. It's not guaranteed that it's going to work, is it, either? So maybe clubs are perhaps a little bit reluctant to do that.
No, this is the thing. It's like obviously last season he did a job for us. He kept us up. We started off this season pretty well, and then since January we've gone downhill. I think most people would admit that we've gone downhill since January.
Yeah.
But obviously there's been Southampton that's been turning his head, and there's been other clubs that may have been turning his head. But I think with Danny, when you look at our results on the pitch, maybe other clubs are thinking, well, actually, he's not that good of a manager.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the form, or certainly the league table since January. 22 games, 6 wins, 7 draws, and 9 defeats. We finished with. Scored 28 goals, conceded 33, 25 points. Only Luton, Derby, Cardiff, Preston, and Watford had a worse record than us. Even Plymouth had a better record than us since January, and they got relegated. So yeah, it certainly it wasn't bottom 3 form, but it wasn't far off either. And the home form was absolutely terrible, weren't it? I've said this in numerous times. I feel like we were just playing for PowerPoint presentations and clips for his presentations he's going to take to whoever the next club is that he might want to go to, rather than actually trying to pick up the points. Last season, the season where we stayed up, season where we, miraculously got enough points and stayed up on the final day of the season, he did change and switch the style of play to a little bit more direct. Will Volks came into his own and things like that, whereas didn't do that this season. And I do feel like, had he perhaps changed the style of play a little bit, you never know, we might have picked up those points that we needed to sneak into the top 6. Who knows? But he didn't, and we continued to play a way that wasn't really working.
Who knows? Because we all play Football Manager, so
we all know best.
We all know best, but Danny can only play what he's got in front of him. But yeah,
there's one here from. I'm just going to read a comment out from Matt, if I may. Company's 39. He had a good season in the Championship, followed by a dire one in the Premier League. Having spent a lot of money and achieving relegation, Bayern Munich still took him. Just for context on Röhl, what do you make to that?
I think if Danny Röhl wants to go, then fine, let him go. It's like he did a job for us when we needed it. If he wants to go now, fine. Just let him go, and we'll find somebody else. But just let Danny go. Let him have his legacy at Wednesday. That he kept us up, and he got us to 12th the season after. Just let him go. Yeah. Just let him go. No. It's like not going back to fucking Big Ron and Dave Richards back in second time, where Big Ron took off us and then Dave Richards sacked him. Just let him go. Just let him go.
This is the thing. Like I feel like if he was offered a mutual termination, he probably would take it. To be fair.
To be fair, if I were working under Chancery, I'd fucking take it as well.
But the problem is, I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think Chancery is going to offer him that kind of lifeline. I feel like Chancery is a very, the contracts that he signs, when the players sign a contract, he wants them to fulfill that full contract. I've given you 3 years. You need to have those 3 years. You don't really sell players very often, do we either?
This is the next thing that we come to, into it. It's like Chancery doesn't want to let him go. Danny's now at the club where he doesn't want to be at the club, so he's just not going to be fucking bothered and just think, whatever.
Well, the other thing is, like, this is the next problem. How many times do we see when a manager comes in and the first excuse that, not necessarily, the manager doesn't necessarily come out with this, but certainly the excuse that the fans give him is they're not his players. Like, he needs to bring his players in. He needs a transfer window. So the transfer window's not opened yet. I know, I think I said June earlier. It's actually July when it opens, so there is still a little bit of time until that opens. But still, what's if we don't bring a manager in, or we don't know who the manager's going to be until after that, or maybe that it is Danny Röhl, we start off terribly and he gets the sack, then whoever would come in has got to work with, the previous manager's players. He has no opportunity to have any say whatsoever on who the other players are coming in. And then we have to wait until January. So it's notoriously, difficult in January to do any sort of rebuild. And then, do you know what I mean? And then where do we stand? We've got an opportunity now where we can just get everything sorted. And maybe it is. Maybe Henrik Pedersen is going to be that person that's just going to take over. And the more I think about it, the more that seems like the totally logical thing to do. He's been here. He knows the current players. He knows what we need, and he can just carry on with what with what's kind of been started.
But this is it, isn't it? It's like Danny Röhl has got so many contacts in Germany. Henrik Pedersen's got so many contacts. Chris Powell as well has got so many contacts. It's like we could get so many players in.
Yeah.
But
if I'm being honest on that, I felt like that when they came in. I thought, what you've just said, I don't feel like them contacts have been utilised.
No,
I expected an influx of German youngsters coming through.
It's like Danny were he assistant manager at Southampton, and
he was,
and Germany, fucking Germany, for fuck's sake.
I expected some 17-year-old Barcelona youth player walking through the door, with the contacts with Hansi Flick.
Somebody that you'd sign on Football Manager, some fucking
wonder kid, yeah,
wonder kid from Football Manager. But we haven't, have we?
Yeah, that's one little thing that I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I'm just kind of more shocked that didn't happen. Really, I thought that was going to be nailed on. Not that we're going to sign him from Barcelona, but just I feel like the players that came in.
Well,
maybe Shea Charles from Southampton. Maybe that was using.
We know what happened last time we signed somebody from Barcelona, Rodri. It's like
that didn't work out very well, did it?
Nothing, did it? But no, it's like I've been reading the press and supposed trying to takeovers, the Walmart people.
What do you make to that, Gavin?
If it happens, it happens. It would be nice. It's like I think from what I've read from the press that if it does happen, we'd be like the third or fourth richest club in the world. And it's like, this is Sheffield Wednesday. It's like, do you know what you're buying into, kind of thing? It's like
I do feel though that I know that Simon Jordan kind of touched on it, that we are like one of the last of the, I don't want to use that phrase, but sleeping giants that you could pick up. And there's a lot of.
I kind of like Simon Jordan. He kind of speaks the truth. To be fair, Simon Jordan, bless him. It's like he's been an owner of a football club. He knows what it takes to own a football club, and he's been there. And he's tried it, and it was unsuccessful. But he's bigged us up numerous times because he knows for a fact that we've got the fan base, we've got this, we've got that.
Well, to be fair, I don't think we have got this or that. I think you just hit the nail. It's just the fan base, isn't it? That is what you're buying ultimately, and we are a passionate bunch. We turn up. I think someone said actually we turn up through thick and thin, and my response was it's more like thick and thick. I don't think there's any thin. It's
thin and thinner is my excuse. Yeah. It's like we turn up on a Tuesday night against fucking Stevenage or Wickham. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we sell out Wembley when we go there. We could have sold Wembley twice over. When we went down there, playoff finals, playoff semi-finals, any big game we turn up for. And it's not only that, all the other gates, 20+ gates every single time. Because we're a mad bunch like that. And can you imagine, Gavin, if there was any hint of success? These numbers and this following, we're talking like League One, in League One days when we're having those sorts of numbers as well. Give us a hint of success and we'll literally buy anything.
This is the thing, right? The FA Cup final last Saturday, Sunday, whatever it were.
Saturday.
There was 84,000 at the FA Cup final, right? There was 72,000 at a League One playoff between Little Barnsley and Little Wednesday. It's, you know what I mean? It's like,
but for me, Gavin, I think when you look at Sheffield Wednesday as a club, there is a lot of potential, and there's also, I know there's a hell of a lot of work that needs doing with like the infrastructure and stuff, but sometimes people like that sort of stuff when they're coming into it. There's a lot that need, it's not like the training ground's just being done. They can make it to whatever they want. Do you know what I mean? They can put the training ground wherever they want. They can put the money and spend it on a new academy because all these things need doing. So it's almost like a big project, and you can add so much value to the football club pretty quickly. And I'm not just meaning about the players or anything like that. I'm meaning to the infrastructure. You could easily give Hillsborough a lick of paint and modernise it in certain ways, modernise the concourse on the Cop, on the North Stand, wherever it may be. You can do all these things, fill the corners in. I don't know. There's loads of stuff that you could do.
On away end, we can just paint the fucking roof to get rid of Presto Stand.
Did you see the AI representation with the Walmart on top of the West Stand? You must have seen it if you're on socials. If not, I'll dig it out and I'll post it. But it looks.
Let's just get rid of Presto Stand that's been there since about 1993. Let's just get rid of that. Just paint it blue.
Or just knock the fucker down. You could just do that as well and build a new one.
Knock it fucking down, fucking rebuild it. It's about time it got fucking knocked down, to be fair.
But you know, whoever comes in, there's a lot that needs doing, but it's almost, anything that they do would be seen as a good thing, and we'd obviously laud them for doing that. Gavin, is there anything else you want to talk about before I kind of move on to G as well?
I'd just like to hope that if we do have a new owner with the Walmart people and whatever, Denver Broncos and all that, I hope they just say to Chancery, like Mandarich said to Dave Allen, it's like, here's your money, just fuck off. Here's your money, go fuck off. I'll deal with the rest. Just fuck off. Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah, look, I just...
And I'm sorry if that's a bit strong, but...
I just hope it gets sorted sooner rather than later. I mean, someone...
Just Chancery, take your money and fuck off.
Yeah, Gavin, thanks for your comments, mate. Do appreciate it. G, I'll come to you in a second if I can. There was a comment earlier that I can't find it now. Here we go from Barry. Where's all the protesting gone? John what, Barry, this is a difficult one when it comes to the protesting because, protesting to what? Like, what's? I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, what's the point in turning your back? Nobody's there." But when you do these sorts of things, you do it at a game. there's a lot of media coverage, there's a lot of photographers there, there's journalists there, TV cameras. It gets the exposure that it needs, and exposure and media attention is obviously definitely something that needs to happen. Obviously a lot of people turn up to the game, they will happily they've already made the commitment to go Saturday at 3:00 or whenever it may be. Going an hour earlier to join into it with the protest isn't that big of a thing. To do something kind of outside of a match day is a bit of a massive commitment, and personally I just don't think it would gain the traction initially. I do agree it has gone a little bit quiet, but I think everything's been overshadowed, and I think Dejpon's probably rubbing his hands together now that all the attention's turned to Danny Röhl, Josh Windass to a certain extent at the moment, and all the heat's kind of been taken off Dejphon Chansiri somewhat. I do agree. We do need to. Let's not forget the fact that the reason why we're in this sort of mess at the moment, and it is a mess. Finished 12th, but next season everyone's saying it's going to be a relegation season. The reason why we're in this mess is because of Dejphon Chansiri, and we need to not forget that one. Wigan Owls said, do you think we'll get a new kit before the new season? I hope so. For all those people that have put the money down for the third kit, I hope there's certainly a new kit anyway. Matt said, second half of the season, sackable form, enough said. If it was any other manager, people would have wanted them out. Darren Moore got us in playoffs and people wanted him sacked. Danny gives us a poor, mediocre finish and he's a king. Yeah, I think you buy yourself a lot of time, Matt, when it comes to football. Yes, people have short memories, but it doesn't have to be that short to remember where we were and fighting for playoffs. And I think also people understand how much of a nightmare it is to kind of manage under Dejphon Chansiri. Certainly, as years go by, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And yeah, we all love him, so you're going to cut him a little bit of slack, aren't you? Really, but I do agree. The form wasn't good enough at all. Matt said, Matt Potter, we didn't have the players and we were overperforming in the first half of last season, and then we got injuries, didn't have the squad to keep it going, and Chansiri wasn't willing or able to spend money. Kevin's just said, people are forgetting about the injuries in the back line we had since January. Yeah, Deshaun Bernard. What was that against West Brom? Just the next game after the transfer window had shut. He goes out injured for a while. We finished up playing Max Lowe, Michael Ahekwa at centre back. Not really ideal, was it? Max Lowe then picks up an injury as well. We had Gabe Otigbeyo playing back there. Yeah, I do agree that's not really going to help proceedings, is it really? Before I bring G up, just for everyone else, do press that request to talk button over on Twitter Spaces, and I will bring you up. We've had a few people already come up and speak, which is great. Let's go to G then. G, how's things? All good?
I was just about to snot off there for a second.
Look, I'm keeping you away. I'm trying to get through all these comments. I've got to. I can't ask for them and then not read them out, can I? So and don't forget this goes out on an audio medium as well. So people have to. People have to hear those comments that have been said. But go on, G.
To give their thoughts on.
Go on then, G. What do you want to talk about, mate?
Probably the same old story, but I'd much rather talk about Danny Röhl and Josh Windass.
Go on then, mate. What's
Josh Windass? Honestly, what does he do on social media? Honestly.
Well, he doesn't do a lot on socials. It's more kind of podcasts, isn't it? And I suppose it is on socials a little bit. Instagram with his hostage picture that he tweeted up.
He would put it out on his Instagram or his Twitter account, but
what's your take on the whole situation with the comments about Joey Pooty? Then is he bang out of order for what he said? Are we making a mountain out of a molehill? What do you think?
It's kind of almost like Ronaldo thing, what he did at Man United. And where he did that interview, you remember?
Yep.
Well, the thing is, though, Josh Windass is not Cristiano Ronaldo, nor will he ever be Cristiano Ronaldo. And I think it were a bit... It's almost like he's trying to get himself sold or something like that.
Yeah. It just didn't need to be said. he's the, I know he's not here. He said, he said he was pish and he's been released, but he just doesn't. He just didn't need to come out of his mouth like that. He could have, like we've said before, he could have told the story without saying that, or just not tell the story at all. Like, I don't really. I must admit, I've not listened. I think the podcast is about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I must admit, I just kind of skimmed through it. There's chapter markers on there, so you can kind of go to the bits where he's talking about Wednesday and Danny Röhl, and I listened to those. I didn't, like I said, I confess, I didn't. I've not listened to the comment in full context, if you know what I mean. But still, you just don't have to say it, mate. Like, what is the point?
I don't get it. I just don't sorry, but I don't really understand that. Right? What? Like, you go on a podcast and you're talking about a young player, right? He's like 34, Josh Windass, isn't he?
I don't think he's as old as 34. He's a little bit younger than that, but
if he's 30, that's all right. But just don't talk about it.
He's 30. Right? He's 31. He'll be 32 in January next year.
Oh, right. Well, just don't go off about a fellow young player who's got a lot of potential, right? And I saw him play against Chesterfield, and that run he made from from Chesterfield half and to cross it to Gregor's. Oh, I think I knew he had something in him, but
yeah, I mean, it's not worked for him, has it? Obviously, he's been released, is what it is. I mean, playing devil's advocate here, but does football not need people like Josh Windass, though? A little bit of a maverick, doesn't really care what people think. Do we need people? Are those players lost now in football? Are we trying to be too politically correct all the time? Are we being too nice in ice? Do we just have to suck it up and take it on the chin a little bit, or do you think that's just bang out of order what he's done?
No, something right. As a player, they're all human beings like us. They can do what they like, right? They can, when it's an international break, they can go out for a pint or anything, like watching England and all that. But just don't go on a podcast, right? Being a bit out of order about talking about a young kid who's got a lot of potential. Just don't do it.
Yeah, he's like I say, he's not helped himself at all, to be honest. What do you make to Danny Röhl then? It was linked with Southampton. It looks like they're going for Will Still. It was linked with Rangers. I was invited on the equivalent of BBC Radio Sheffield up in Glasgow last week before. There's been reports from them saying that the compensation is too big and that's going to put them off. Leipzig, it's come out today that they're looking at Glasner or Fabregas for that role, so that might not even happen either. There's a lot of clubs that he's been linked with, and they all one by one seem to be falling by the wayside somewhat. So maybe Danny Röhl's agent's got a little bit more work to do in getting his name out there a little bit more.
Something, I don't blame Danny if he goes. I love Danny to pieces, and something, right? Some so-called Wednesday the other week, right, saying Danny out because he's praising Leeds fans for their support. Well, I don't blame Danny if he praises Leeds, because like Wednesday, they sell out every away game, right? So I'd say fair play to him if he praises Leeds fans.
Yeah, I think, do you know what it is as well? I mean, in anything, I think us as fans, like, we're so passionate, and we're Wednesday through and through. We've been, the vast majority of us would have been Wednesday fans from being very, very little, and it's in his DNA.
Something, James, right? A mate of mine who's a Swansea fan, there's top 4 fan bases he rates who are right passionate. He rates Sunderland, Newcastle, Wednesday, and Leeds.
Yeah,
and all 4 of them are right passionate bunch up.
But what the point I'm making is, like, to the players and the managers, it's just a job. I hear people saying that we gave Danny Röhl his first managerial job. He should be thankful, and to a certain degree, yeah, I accept that. But he's not. He isn't going to be Sheffield Wednesday manager for 10, 15 years. Like that's never going to. It was always going to be a stepping stone. This point was always going to come where he was going to leave. Yes, maybe could it have been done better? Probably. He might not even be leaving as it stands. He might still be here, and we might have to go through this all again when the time does come for him to leave. Or maybe he gets sacked. Who knows? But it was always gonna move on at some point.
I don't blame him if he moves on. I don't blame him a bit because of all this stuff about what's he going to get working under Chansiri? Nothing. And it's just like the other managers managers that he's fallen out with Chansiri because, I mean, do I think Darren Moore asked for like ×4 to stay? But I don't think he asked for any money, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I think he probably just asked to be paid comparable to the other Championship managers. To be fair, but I don't know that. Who knows? But there is sometimes you do look, and there is a bit of a common denominator with all of these. Things.
Something, right? Something. I'm not sure if you heard this. There'll be another Wednesday Legends next year, and Darren Moore will be there. And would he give his thoughts? I'm not sure if he would give his thoughts on what happened with him, but who knows? But I'll be there personally.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Gee, massive thanks for coming on, pal. Do appreciate it as always. I've got Andy that's waiting as well. Andy, I'll come to you in a second, mate. Just read a few of these comments out as well. Matt says perhaps he's going to Leicester. They're on -15 points and need someone to perform miracles in the Championship. Yeah, you never know. He also went on to say totally logical, so probably won't happen. That in reference to Henrik Pedersen being the next Wednesday manager if that happens. Gary said the video with Pedersen and Waddle looks like Pedersen is not going anywhere. Yeah, it certainly looked that way with the language that they were using. Matt Thomas has said, Rodri is still going at 34 with AD Queta nowadays. I'm guessing they're in Spain, Portugal, somewhere like that. Never heard of them. Max has said we should have signed young players like Todd Cantwell, James Sutton and Mo Leicester when we had the chance. Big resale value. Yeah, that is something that I've been banging on about for seemingly every single year. The sign players when they're young, move them on after a couple of years, get the money for them, and then reinvest that money back into some more youngsters and keep that cycle moving. But it's not happened yet. Who knows? We might bring in some new youngsters in the summer. Maybe that's all we're going to be able to afford, to bring in some youngsters on peanut wages. Matt Potter, everyone's called Matt in the chat, by the way. Need some different names in here. Matt said, without Danny and Josh last season, we'd have been in League One. Some of our fans need to get real. Also, did not get paid in time a couple of times. I'd want to move on in those circumstances. Once it was Matt. I mean, Josh might have been here. I think Josh would have been here during the last time they didn't get paid and during COVID. In fact, he was here. So that was, I think that was 3 consecutive months where they got paid late. Obviously, Chansiri citing COVID as a reason for that. And then, this time most recently was it in March? Is it March? Yeah, March's payments didn't get paid until early April time. So, the problem is on that they don't have any ground. Well, I suppose they could leave, but they can't just leave because the wages did actually eventually get paid. So if you're under contract, it's tough. Someone's got to come in for you to leave. Let's. I was going to come to. Whoever it was that was going to speak is not there anymore, so serves me right for waffling on with these comments. If you do want to speak, do press that request to talk button on the bottom left, and I will bring you up, and we can have a chat. Just kind of my thoughts again on the Josh Windass thing. I think, like I said, I just think it's a bit bang out of order for what he's done. It doesn't perhaps seem much, but. Like I said, he's a role model. Josh Windass has been captain at Sheffield Wednesday. You don't want to be coming out and saying stuff like that. Like, irrespective of what your thoughts are and what your thoughts were of the situation. I mean, for those that didn't see it. It was on the Open Goal podcast that you can find on YouTube. He said that he was talking about a story about. I don't think he got told to have a word with Joey Putti about the amount of running that he's been doing. He apparently only ran 9 kilometres, to which Josh said, "Just tell me a player that runs less than 10k." Joey Putti then says it's Lionel Messi, in which case and then he's saying that's a load of Well, he just said he was pish basically, and he got released, and he's not Messi, so he shouldn't be comparing himself to that. But it's all been convoluted. I think the Joey Putti's come out and said that he got blown out of proportion a little bit. But yeah, right. I can see that Ted's wanting to speak as well. So Ted, are you there, mate?
Yep.
Hi, pal. How's it going, mate? You all right?
No, but I saw it.
Yeah, good. I'll just read this comment out as well. Our fans get so offended at the slightest of things. Maybe if people took their blue and white glasses off, they would see more clearly. That's from Daz. Ted, what do you want to talk about, mate?
Well, I missed the first bit of the show. Like I've just got rid of Sky and I've gone with that EE and all my systems all upside down.
Well, you're here, Ted, so maybe at least you've got this one working. So, no, you can talk about anything you want, mate. We've been talking about Danny Röhl and the fact that, one by one, clubs seem to be pulling out of the running, or ruling himself out in terms of being interested in him. We've talked about Josh Windass, as I've just been saying, in his comments about Joey Putti being pish, in his words. We could talk about the takeover that's rumoured to £100 million, apparently, that we've not heard anything about since. Anything you want, Ted, mate. The floor is yours.
Well, Windass situation. Keep telling him. I mean, I've got him on Facebook. I said, just keep off of that social media. It's poisonous, especially for footballers. I said, have 2 bad games, and they'll be all on it. I'm slagging it off and all. I says, keep at it, offer it. I mean, my lad plays golf with his dad and all.
All right,
golf
okay.
with his dad and Mark Crossley and Sheridan, they're up team with them, and his brother, Josh's brother, is it younger brother?
Yeah.
I said, tell him, he needs to get off of that, keep off of that social media, but he can't help it then. And he ends up, that's what happens. Like he's got his head in trouble again. I mean, they're all on about.
Well, I mean, these comments, Ted, were on a podcast that he did with one of his mates, one of the former Scottish footballers, Open Goal podcast. But it's not. It's just not great. It's not a great look, is it? And I think we often talk about Windass and things that he does not being a good look, but then he goes and bangs 13 goals in on the pitch. It's a tough one, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, if he wants to get away, let him go. But if this takeover does happen, they're all going to be sick. All these ones in a way, they're all going to be sick because everything will change, full circle. As regards that takeover, I got in touch with that Simon Quick. I went only on Twitter. I said, Simon, what's happening? Is there anything happening? I said, because it's getting a bit hard to stick up for the kid. I went, I'm backing you up, I said, well, with all these dissenters, but it's getting hard because we're not hearing nothing. And he come back at me a bit sharpish, he went, well, listen, you can believe it or not, it's just something's going off in the background. Okay, it should be going quicker than what it has done, but it's not simple selling a football club. And it's even harder when you're dealing with something like Chancellor.
Yeah,
I can't explain how hard it is to deal with. It's just things are happening. Everyone to happen quicker.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? I do. A lot of people. I feel like this is a problem of having a fan base the size that we do, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. A lot of people, when he were coming out and talking to Matt on this podcast, they were saying, these things don't happen over social media. Football club sales don't happen. Football club sales don't happen on Twitter. These people don't come out and do these sorts of things. Now he's gone. Well, He's not gone quiet on his socials, but certainly gone quiet on these kind of the takeovers. The American people that apparently he was speaking with or privy to, and then now that's no good either. That now he's gone quiet and he's come out and say something. So it's, you know, like I said, I feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. For me, you know, I think, you know, personally, he came out and said what he said. I think it got people talking. A lot of people talking about kind of takeovers and things like that, and the conversation has started. Whether or not that's because of what Simon said or not, no, I think nobody's ever going to know the answer to that question. But it's certainly, you know, I feel like we're further along on the conversation. A lot more people have picked it up. You know, Henry Winter picked it up. Simon Jordan's picked it up. Various other media outlets have started talking about it. We've got ex-pros. Chris Waddle were talking about it. Everyone knows about it now, and you know, that can only be better for, you know, for getting rid of Chance here and someone else coming in. The only problem is,
well, on that validity about it all, what I've come back to my head is when something's come out like that and it's false, he's straight on social media. Chance here is saying a load of rubbish. No, it's happening, but he hasn't, has he yet? With this,
no.
He's not. But all I've heard is since somebody mentioned he's asking for 125 million now.
It gets bigger and bigger. In a few weeks' time, mate, it'll be 1.5 billion.
Surely it must know that it's not going to. Everything's got a face value, hasn't it? I mean, I've got a 15-year-old Astra estate. Me, probably the best card I've had. I'd like 15 grand for him, but trophy is worth about 2 if that.
Do you know what? I felt personally, I felt that last season, the season's just gone. He were going to plough a bit of money into it. We saw what Danny Röhl could do the season prior with the tools that he had. I felt like he was going to pump a bit of money into it. We're going to sign some better players, you know, a bit of a budget, and we were going to try and get as high as we possibly could. You know, if we could have fluked the playoffs or even fluke getting into the Premier League, happy days. And then we, you know, the club would have been worth a lot more than what it currently is now. Or even if it had got into the playoffs, maybe not got through, you know, a bit like a Bristol City. But then you're selling a club that's, you know, that's got the potential. That's got the potential. I personally thought that might be what he would have done. Now, I just don't see, you know, he's not paid the players this season. This season just gone. The club, as per the accounts that most recent accounts, was losing £9 million a year.
Yeah.
I just don't see the logic in doing what he's doing.
Makes sense for him, does it?
Because surely we're going to be potentially losing even more than the £9 million, you know, given, you know, signing players like Shea Charles and, you know, Ike Ugbo. Apparently he was on a decent whack. Players are going to be on more money than what... We didn't really get rid of any big earners. I can't see Will Volks have been a massive earner that we got rid of. But again, you know, we probably brought in players on better money than that. So maybe he's going to be losing even more than the £9 million than this time around.
That meeting, did he say, like, people say I've got no money? Well, I have got money. Don't worry about that. I've got money to run this club. Well,
yeah, but he's not. He's not.
Money. Let's see who he brings in. To me, you've got 3 categories. You've got young up-and-coming players with good sell-on value, we could pick up from like your Man Cities and all your big clubs. You've got your middle-aged ones, mid-20s, 25, 26-year-olds who've been here and done it, good players. Or then you've got your Stephen Fletcher type, wanting one last payoff, injury-prone, 30-plus-year-olds. Now, which of them 3 categories you reckon he's going to bring in? That'll be proof when he starts bringing some players in. We'll see what kind of players he brings in.
Well, he's going to have to bring someone in because we haven't got a squad, have we, at the moment? You know, he's let a number of those players go. He's kept a few. Maybe.
That's another thing. Who's kept these players? Who's devised this release list then?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if it were Chantieri himself. I know Danny Röhl apparently gave his.
Ground, but he's only in the club.
He's signing it season, mate. At the moment, he speaks very well.
Have you seen that video and what he's doing to the pitch?
I have, yeah. He speaks well. He could be manager.
Signing him.
He could be manager next season. Who knows? Ted, massive thanks, pal. Sorry, I just want to move on because I've got Austin that wants to speak. And only got another 10 minutes left. But Ted, always nice to speak to you. I just want to pull this comment up from James. It said, Ted, hope you and your missus are doing okay and health improves and you both get well soon. So that's from James. Ted, Austin, just want to unmute yourself. I'll bring you up in a second. James also goes on and said Windass was in a room with his mates and spoke openly, and with hindsight he probably thinks, shit, should he have said that on a podcast? Interesting to hear he doesn't really speak too much to his dad, as they don't really get on. Austin, how's things, mate? You all right?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you very much. What do you want to talk about, mate, for the last 10 minutes or so?
Just various
Yeah, go on.
What's going on at the moment? So obviously the Windass thing that you've just brought up.
Yep.
I think we've all known that Windass isn't one to sugarcoat things. He hasn't been for a while, obviously. In the playoff final, he didn't sugarcoat it. He said we played shit.
Yeah.
And exactly what you were saying before about like whoever that was who just said he was just talking openly with his mates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. Like, he's probably not thought about it before he said anything. I think he does give off that kind of vibe where he doesn't really think about what he says sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think did he do a Q&A or something the other day, and I think he was asked a question about about the fans and stuff, and he just openly said he doesn't really care what fans think of him. He's more bothered about what the manager thinks. And again, it's like I feel ultimately, yeah, we don't. It doesn't matter what we think. Really, he's right. Like I said it earlier in the show. We don't pick the team; the manager does. So yeah, it does matter what the manager thinks. But I just feel like football now, it's such a you almost become like a personal brand,
Yeah.
And football careers are only short, and then if you can get the fans on your side, it just makes things so much easier. If he does kiss the badge and he does celebrate and do all the other things that all the other Wednesday players do, the fact that he'd not scored for however long since January, maybe people would have cut him a little bit of slack. I mean, but people love. Again, I always reference Pato. People love him because he runs around a lot, But yeah, we slag Windass off at every opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's. I think it just doesn't really help proceedings. Austin? What do you think to the Danny Röhl situation? If you were a betting man, is he going to be in the dugout come August?
I think it's definitely interesting to see, especially what happens with if the takeover happens or not. I think that will have a very different impact on it. But as it stands, if Chansiri is still here, come August, which I think he will be. I think he'll have no choice. I don't think anyone's going to pay. Leipzig's the only one that would pay. A championship club like Leicester or Southampton, obviously. I don't think they'll pay 5 million plus for him.
Yeah. So if that was the case, then if he's still here, would you rather him be put on gardening leave and Pedersen take the mantle, or would you just see what happens with Danny Röhl in charge?
I think I'll just see what happens. I like Danny Röhl. I think he's one of the best managers we've had in a long time, if not the best, like tactically anyway. So I would keep him how it goes now. But if he shows like half-heartedness and stuff like that, it's just like, what is the point? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is the problem. I mean, me personally, like I said before, I just want the situation resolved and sorted.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's almost like another season missed then, and in terms of the players that we're going to bring in, again, it all comes back to as well. It all comes back to wanting other people in football in positions, director of football, CEO, all these people that can, if we did have a director of football, for example. Doesn't matter who the manager is, really, at this point in time right now, because they're doing the work with the with the recruitment team, highlighting players that are going to bring in, and then you're just bringing a manager to kind of suit the squad that you've got and the kind of plan that you've got and the vision in what the squad's going to look like in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years time. We haven't got that, so we just, it's almost like things are just come to a bit of a standstill until we find out who the manager is going to be, who Chansiri takes a shine on, really. But what do you, Austin, when you look at, obviously we've talked about Danny Röhl, talked about Joey Pooty as well. Finally, before we do wrap things up, Carlos, would you have him back, Austin? I don't know if we've lost Austin there, but thanks for coming up, Austin. Do really appreciate it as always. I'm going to wrap things up there. Actually, been on nearly an hour and a half now, which is always good. Looks like I'll just read a few more comments out before we do finish. James Revel said Josh basically backed yours and Matt's comments about players that put in 100% every game get a better fan response. Yeah, they did. He was talking about what was it? He gets it, I think, is what he was talking about there. How it annoys him how people use those words. Just because they've won a 50-50 in the middle of the park. But yeah. Let's see what Jason said. Is Chansiri paying for the pitches done, or is the Yanks who've reportedly made a bid? Who knows, Jason? Someone said earlier apparently the EFL have given some money to clubs for stuff like that. So who knows? Who knows what's happened with that one? He has got money, apparently. According to him, he has got money. So we'll have to see. Matt has said, imagine the awkwardness on the first day of the season with Röhl, Chansiri and Windass all in the dressing room, wondering how they are all still there. You have to laugh or you'd cry. Bonkers Wednesday. Matt Potter has said, next season could be a poison chalice for whoever's in charge at our club. I think Danny knows this and everyone else does, so whether he goes now or at the end of his contract, he'll get another club. And Samantha said there's no point in keeping the best manager that we have had in a very long time if Chansiri is just going to furnish him with players who aren't good enough. Again, massive thanks everyone for joining me this evening. Do really appreciate it. Going to wrap things up there. If it is your first time listening, where the hell have you been for all the other God knows how many shows I've been doing on the debate show every single week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. We're live across YouTube, X, and Twitter Spaces as well. So do make sure you join us next week. And who knows what we're going to be talking about? Something positive, maybe. Let's see what happens. But yeah, do join us next week as always. Like I said, gonna wrap things up. But nice to speak to everyone, and we'll see.